Spoštovano občinstvo v studiu 2 TV Slovenija, gledalke in gledalci prvega programa TV Slovenija, poslušalke in poslušalci prvega programa Radia Slovenija, ter vsi, ki nas spremljate neposredno prek spleta ali socialnega omrežja Facebook, dobrodošli ob začetku dialoga s prvim podpredsednikom Evropske komisije, gospodom Fransom Timmermansom. Dobrodošli, gospod podpredsednik. Glede dialogov z državljani imate že dolgoletne izkušnje, ne pa toliko izkušenj z govorjenjem v Sloveniji. Kaj je tisto prvo, kar se vam utrne v mislih, ko nekdo omeni Slovenijo?
Well, when Slovenia is mentioned, I think of Slovenians before I think of the country, because I'm from a part of the Netherlands in the south where we used to have a coal mining industry, and we've always had a very strong Slovenian community until today. They came in the 1920s, they stayed, they prospered, they're doing very well, and they're now part of the Dutch society.
Oni so verjetno izbrali to regijo ne samo zaradi rudnikov, ker je tudi daleč najbolj gorat del Nizozemske, z ogromnimi gorami celo do 300 metrov.
Yes, we go up to 300 meters, yes, indeed. Yeah.
Odlično, ampak Triglava nimate. Skratka, tukaj v studiu, kjer je večina udeležencev tega dialoga, je približno 50 poslušalk in poslušalcev, ki bodo zastavljali vprašanja podpredsedniku Evropske komisije. Imamo pa tudi še en studio z nekaj manj gledalkami in gledalci, in sicer v Mariboru, kjer pozdravljam kolegico Jasmino Gregorec. Dober večer. Jasmina, koliko je gostov v studiu v Mariboru in ali že lahko pričakujemo, kakšne teme bodo načeli v spraševanju podpredsednika komisije?
Dober večer, Igor, in seveda lep pozdrav gospodu Timmermansu. V mariborski studio je prišlo 17 državljanov, ki jih zanima, kakšna bo njihova prihodnost. In da je seveda v veliki meri odvisna tudi od načrtov in prihodnosti Evropske unije, zato imajo za gospoda Timmermansa kar nekaj vprašanj. Iz kratkega razgovora z njimi pred oddajo sem dobila občutek, da bodo v ospredju vprašanja o realizaciji arbitražne razsodbe, o posledicah, o nadzoru na notranjih mejah Evropske unije in tudi o izobraževanju bomo spraševali. Več pa seveda, ko pridejo do besede.
Najlepša hvala, Jasmina. V Maribor se bomo seveda vrnili. Skratka, naš cilj je predvsem, da z gospodom Timmermansom spregovorimo čim več o prihodnosti Evropske unije, ampak obstaja tudi sedanjost Evropske unije in gospod Timmermans se v zadnjih dneh in tednih največ ukvarja z vprašanjem poljske, predvsem sporne poljske pravosodne reforme, ki je seveda tudi širše vprašanje, kajti sprašujemo se, ali naj bo Evropska unija skupnost vrednot, skupnost solidarnosti ali pa morda na koncu vendarle zgolj samo pragmatična gospodarska povezava. Gospod Timmermans, ko gre za vprašanje Poljske, tukaj gre za širše vprašanje, namreč kako zagotoviti, in to je eden izmed delov, ki ga pokrivate tudi kot komisar Evropske komisije, namreč pravna varnost, veljavnost pravnega reda. Lahko pa se sprašujemo, kakšne so sploh možnosti Evropske komisije, da kaj takega zagotovi, recimo v primeru Poljske.
When we started all this European cooperation many years ago, the big problem was, how do you bring together big countries and small countries and make everybody feel comfortable with that? Power doesn't work because then big countries dominate. So what does work? Law. So if you make treaties and people who sign the treaty abide by the treaty, follow the treaty, then you can make sure that big and small are in an equal position. So that is why respect for the treaties and respect for the law is fundamental in European cooperation. Without that, we cannot have a European Union. Now, to make sure the law is respected, you need what we call separation of powers. You need to make sure that judges are independent from political influence from governments. And that's the only way the system can work. And there's a big question now in Poland because the government is introducing legislation that would limit the independence of the judiciary. And we at the Commission need to act and need to help the Polish government avoid these mistakes. We have instruments for that. We have an article in the treaty, Article 7, that we can invoke. But at the end of the day, in Europe, we solve questions through dialogue. And so that's what I've been trying to do for a year and a half, a dialogue with the Polish government, so that they avoid limiting the independence of the judiciary.
V Sloveniji, in To ste slišali tudi danes ob Blejskem strateškem forumu in boste morda slišali tudi nocoj. Seveda vladavino prava v Evropski uniji mnogi razumejo tudi v kontekstu tega, kar se dogaja v odnosih med Slovenijo in Hrvaško. Se pravi, za uresničevanje sodbe arbitražnega sodišča, kar je mednarodni sporazum. Kakšne so možnosti Evropske komisije in sploh želje Evropske komisije, da zagotovi spoštovanje prava, mednarodnega prava tudi med dvema članicama, čeprav gre, kar ste nekajkrat poudarili tudi danes, gre v bistvu za dvostransko vprašanje. Ampak res gre samo za dvostransko vprašanje?
Well, we at the Commission facilitated this procedure, and I want you to keep in mind that when Croatia became a member of the European Union, initially it was said all border disputes need to be resolved. So that was not the case yet. So we said, okay, then both countries, Slovenia and Croatia, would accept arbitration to solve the problem. And that's from the beginning, the European Commission fostered that, stimulated that. So now there is an award coming out of this arbitration procedure, which was sometimes very difficult, this procedure, but it went according to the law from beginning to end, even with the difficulty that came in between. And we urge both countries to implement the award of the arbitration so that we can put this behind us, so that the border issues will be solved definitely between two member states. That is the interest of the European Union as a whole, and that is what the Commission would like to see. Now, at this stage, both countries are still in a dialogue, looking for a solution. I hope they will find that solution, but for the Commission, the award is something that deserves respect because it came out of a procedure that was agreed by all parties.
Ampak preden greva k tribuni in prvim vprašanjem naših gledalk in gledalcev, kaj, če ta dialog v primeru Poljske, recimo govorimo o dialogu med Poljsko in Evropsko komisijo, ne bo uspešen? Kaj, če ta dialog zaradi ene ali obeh strani med Slovenijo in Hrvaško ne bo uspešen? Kakšne so tu sploh možnosti, razen da pozivate k dialogu in spoštovanju prava? Kaj lahko tu storite vi kot podpredsednik komisije, kot komisija, kot Evropska unija?
Well, on this issue of Slovenia and Croatia, I would say, given the fact that governments are still talking to each other, I don't want to intervene at this stage. That would not help the process. But rest assured that the European Commission will keep following it and we will keep urging parties to come to the implementation of the award. What might happen after that, it would not help the process if I were to analyze that at this stage. But we all have an interest in putting this border dispute behind us. It is good for citizens to have clarity. It is good for two friendly nations in the European Union to have this clarity. And it's good for the European Union as a whole so that we don't have conflicts on something that could be resolved between these two member states.
Najlepša hvala za vaše odgovore na tem mestu. Zdaj pa seveda gremo k našim gledalkam in gledalcem tu v studiu, ki zastavljajo vprašanje. Izvolite, gospod podpredsednik. Kdo bi želel zastaviti prvo vprašanje? Prvi se je javil mladenič na tribuni. Izvolite.
Najlepša hvala. Vidorja iz organizacije Transparency International Slovenija. Tudi moje vprašanje se navezuje na vladavino prava, na dobro upravljanje. Kot ste že omenili, vedno večje so te tendence ogrožanja vladavine prava in dobrega upravljanja strani nekaterih držav Evropske unije, recimo Madžarske in Poljske. Zakaj potem takem se je Evropska unija odločila ukiniti pravzaprav Evropsko poročilo o korupciji, čeprav vemo, da je korupcija tista, ki pravzaprav najbolj spodkopava vladavino prava, to, kar pravzaprav vidimo tudi v Sloveniji?
We published a report on corruption a couple of years ago. And we saw that when we published that report, it was sort of put in a niche. It was not discussed in the broader framework of economic policy and other policies. So what we decided to do at the Commission, that issues pertaining to corruption should be part of a broader analysis of what is happening in member states, should also be part of the economic indicators of other issues. So in other words, we wanted to mainstream the issue of corruption in member states. We will not hide anything, but we didn't want to create another separate report because I was a bit disappointed that this report was sort of put on a different track. Whereas if you want to tackle corruption, you have to do it in a much broader framework, also looking at economic policies, at privatization policies and other issues as well.
Samo kratko pod vprašanje. Ta vaš odgovor sem pričakoval. Pred časom je Slovenija ravno dobila prvo polletno poročilo, če se ne motim, ravno o ekonomskih indikatorjih, ki je bilo krajše in Evropska komisija je ravno ta protikorupcijski del izvzela iz tega poročila, na kar je seveda predsednik vlade to seveda primerno obrnil in je rekel, da očitno Evropska komisija pravi, da korupcija v Republiki Sloveniji ni več tak problem, kot je bilo v preteklosti. Želel sem samo upozoriti na to, da mogoče način, kako je Evropska komisija se spopada s tematiko pomanjkanja transparentnosti, integritete in odgovornosti ter preprečevanja korupcije, mogoče ni najboljša.
Well, there we disagree. And it's my experience with the first report brings me to do this in this way now, in the more general terms. Now, let me be very clear. There is not one member state where issues of corruption are completely absent. It is a matter of life in every member state. Small corruption, high-level corruption, we need to tackle that. That's what our citizens want from us. So no member state is completely free. And any politician who says that a member state is completely free is not telling you the whole truth. But we will continue fighting it. And we've made some pretty remarkable strides forward in this fight, also in Slovenia. And you can be proud of those strides forward, but we need to stay very, very concentrated on this issue, because if they believe they can get away with it, people will try to use corruption in the public sector again.
Najlepša hvala. Naslednje vprašanje tu v Ljubljani, preden gremo v Maribor. Zelo so zadržani. Ja, tukaj imamo še eno vprašanje, kot rečeno, potem pa v Maribor. Izvolite.
Lep pozdrav, Andrej Gnezda iz Umonotere. Moje vprašanje je prav tako na vladavino prava, povezano pa z trgovinskimi sporazumi, mednarodno trgovino. V času pogajanj o sporazumu TTIP in CETA se je pojavila strokovna razprava, da zelo verjetno ta mehanizem reševanja sporov ICS ali ISDS ni skladen z pravnim redom Evropske unije. Evropsko sodišče je edina kompetentna in pa, bom rekel, pristojna institucija v EU, ki bi lahko o tem vprašanju razsodila. Zanima me, zakaj Evropska komisija ni zaprosila za mnenje Evropsko sodišče glede tega, ali je ta sistem sploh skladen s pravnim redom EU.
What we have is an experience of many, many years of trade agreements. There are hundreds that were never part of a public debate. It was always left up to technicians. I was a member of parliament for many, many years in the Netherlands. It took a little time for the Dutch parliament to check trade agreements, because trade is good, so trade agreements are good, etc. This mood has changed over the last 4 or 5 years, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing because from now on, it will be impossible to make trade agreements without big public scrutiny, including on the issue of how you settle disputes when there are disputes. It is in the tradition of trade agreements that you have special arrangements for dispute settling for investors. Now, this is contested publicly, and I think it is right that it is contested publicly. We need to make sure that we streamline this into a fixed system in international law of a tribunal that can deal with that, of professional judges, and not just ad hoc. And you can already see it with the Canada agreement, and you will see it with new agreements. We will be moving in that direction under high public scrutiny. And I believe the European Parliament is competent in that. National parliaments who are competent in that will look at this with great care. Having said all this, after the Trump election in the United States and his announcement that he would pull back from trade agreements, we've seen the rest of the world coming to Europe and saying, could we please have trade agreements, because we want the economic model of openness to be strengthened and to continue. And I believe there are problems with trade agreements we need to fix, problems of accountability, problems of transparency. But let's not throw away the baby with the bathwater. Trade agreements are good for our economy if they are fair, if they guarantee our social rights, if they guarantee the protection of the environment on European standards, then let's please continue making trade agreements with other parts of the world. Let Mr. Trump do what he likes, but the European Union is open for business to have fair and open trade agreements with the rest of the world.
Tako, hvala lepa za zdaj. Zdaj pa gremo, to vas bo zanimalo, gospod Timmermans v Maribor, ki je nogometna prestolnica Slovenije, kjer bomo slišali prvo vprašanje tudi iz studija, v katerem je Jasmina Gregorec. Jasmina, se slišimo?
Slišimo se, slišali smo vse dosedanje odgovore. Naše prvo vprašanje pa želi postaviti predstavnik mestnega mladinskega sveta.
Pozdravljeni, moje ime je Matic, spoštovani podpredsednik. Tudi moje vprašanje je vezano na sosednjo prijateljsko državo Hrvaško in predvsem odnose med nami. Imamo veliko prijateljev na Hrvaškem, sodelujemo, ampak je treba priznati, da žal ti odnosi mednarodni vplivajo tudi na naše prijateljstvo, na naše odnose. In tukaj pričakujemo neko reakcijo Evropske komisije, vas tudi osebno, da to sago, bom rekel, ki se vleče nekaj let, napetost, ki je v zraku, končamo, ker ni dobra tudi za odnose med nami mladimi in sodržavljanje Evropske unije, konec koncev.
I honestly believe this issue should not stand in between citizens of Slovenia and Croatia. And if you say that it does, that is a really a serious matter and a shame. As I said before, the two governments are talking to each other. I hope they will find a solution of the problem, but the European Commission will continue to support the arbitration procedure and the outcome. I'm not saying anything about the content of the award, but there is an award. The award was reached through an internationally supported process, which is in full conformity of international law, and we believe, therefore, that it's in the interest of all parties that the award should be applied. How it is applied is a matter of discussion still between the two governments, and I hope they will reach a consensus of how they will do this. But we will continue to support the award, the outcome of this arbitration procedure. And we will also be very careful in looking at what this does in the labour market, what this does for you as ordinary citizens. It would be a shame and completely unnecessary if this issue would lead to tensions between people who are so close to each other as the Slovenians and the Croats are.
Ste zadovoljni z odgovorom? Torej, lahko postavimo naslednje vprašanje. Je tukaj?
Lep pozdrav tudi v mojem imenu. Moje ime je Žiga Steinbacher. Torej, vidimo, da Poljska dejansko se ne zmeni za opozorila Evropske komisije glede neodvisnosti poljskega sodstva in ostalih težav. Zanima me, ali bo Poljska izgubila glasovalno pravico v Evropski uniji in seveda, ali Evropska komisija predvideva podobna postopanja glede arbitražne razsodbe, torej če Hrvaška ne bo sprejela arbitražne razsodbe glede meje z Slovenijo.
First of all, let me be very clear. These two situations are at this stage not comparable. In the case of Poland, we are talking about a systemic threat to the rule of law. That is a different case. Let me be very clear about that. But as far as Poland is concerned, I remain an eternal optimist. I still hope we can come to a solution through dialogue. But if we cannot, the European Commission will use the instruments at its disposal, because the rule of law, as I tried to explain at the beginning, is not just a game for lawyers. It is the cement that keeps the European Union together. It is the cement that guarantees that every single citizen has a fair day in court, that decisions by judges are not taken after a phone call from Party Central. You knew that in the past of your country, that this was the case many years ago. We don't want to go back to that situation in the European Union. Now, as far as the issue of the border dispute is concerned and the award, I don't want to rush into what might be done if it can be solved. Here again, I want to remain an optimist and call on both countries to just implement the award. And if they don't do that, we'll take it from there. But let's cross that bridge when we get there, because anything I say tonight might have a negative impact on a discussion and a dialogue between two governments, and I don't want to play that role. I want us to help find a solution and not increase the problem.
Tako, imamo čas še za kakšno vprašanje tukaj iz Maribora?
Maribor, glede na to, da ste drugo mesto in prvo v nogometu, absolutno.
Tako, kdo želi postaviti naslednje vprašanje? Aha, gospod tam zadaj.
Neoviran prehod med mejami držav članic je nekakšen zaščitni znak Evropske unije. Glede na to, da so države Avstrija, Nemčija, Danska, Švedska uvedle nadzor nad svojimi mejami, me zanima, kaj bo inštitucije Evropske unije storile za to, da se ohrani ta pomembna pridobitev za evropske državljane.
You are absolutely right. One of the fundamental achievements of the European Union is the possibility for European citizens to travel freely in the Schengen area. This is of extreme importance for moral reasons and economic and political reasons. Now, we had this extraordinary situation where we were not in a position to secure the protection of our external borders in a sufficient manner. That is why member states got the possibility for a limited period of time to protect the internal borders within Schengen. This needs to come to an end after a certain period. And as I said in May, the European Commission said in May, another 6 months, and then this needs to come to an end. We need to prove that we are in a position to do a better job at protecting our external borders. I think we are increasingly proving that we are capable to do that. At the same time, we need to allow member states, if there is an emergency, to act also upon the internal borders. But they will have to show that there is justification for that. So as far as the Commission is concerned, we will work towards ending this situation, because we don't see a justification for it now, because the external borders are better protected. But we also want to be at the service of member states so that they can react if there is a crisis. We don't see a crisis now, it might occur, and then member states should be in a position to react. That's in the interest of all of us. So I don't want to see any queues at the border between Austria and Slovenia. It is in no one's interest to have that. And I want the internal border controls to be ended as soon as possible.
Tako. Še kakšno vprašanje lahko zastavimo?
Malce kasneje, zdaj pa dajmo spet priložnost našim gledalkam in gledalcem v ljubljanskem studiu. Hvala, Maribor. Za zdaj gremo torej nazaj v Ljubljano. Gospe v prvi vrsti, izvolite.
Najlepša hvala. Moje ime je Špela Majcen Marušič, jaz sem avtorica na blogu EU 360. Pa bi se navezala na predhodno vprašanje, ki je bilo na temo notranjih meja. Mene pa zanima, pa da pogledamo v prihodnost. Ali mislite, da nas bo mogoče v prihodnosti čez 5-10 let na zunanji šengenski meji, ko bomo prišli iz tretje države EU v EU, sprejel policist z evropsko zastavo, ki bo deloval kot nekakšna skupna zunanja mejna straža?
Well, I think the only real sustainable solution in the long term is real European border and coast guards, so that we share the responsibility collectively. Because now it's a bit unfair. You know, geography dictates whether you're burdened or not. If you're lucky and you're a landlocked country, then you don't have a problem. But if you're unlucky and you have so many islands like Greece, or you're in the, close to the African continent, so like Italy, you're overburdened. And that, you know, if we don't show solidarity on those issues at the European level, the whole European structure will come unraveled. Because, you know, as you know, perhaps, I know Italy very well, and the burden on Italian society, not because the issue they can't handle. They can handle it. That's not the problem. The problem is they feel left alone by other European nations. And that is bad for Europe, if one nation feels left alone by others. So we will have to organize a European border and coast guard. All countries need to contribute to that. By the way, there's a strong willingness now of countries to do that. And indeed, in 5 or 10 years' time, the external borders of the European Union will be protected and guarded by European border and coast guards.
Odlično.
Najlepša hvala, zadovoljni z odgovorom. Naslednje vprašanje moram povedati, da gospod Timmermans je nekdani zunanji minister Kraljevine Nizozemske, del mladosti pa preživel tudi v Italiji, točneje v Rimu, zato tudi ta njegova naklonjenost Italiji. Izvolite.
Dobar dan, moje ime je Žiga Novak, nisem predstavnik nobenega. Omenili ste suverenost držav, tako članic kot ne članic. Kako si lahko EU in Evropska komisija dovolijo vmešavati v notranje zadeve držav, se pravi članic in ne članic? Kako si dovolijo visoki predstavniki Evropske komisije in drugih institucij Evropske unije vmešavati v volitve v Franciji, v volitve celo v ZDA, v volilni proces v Makedoniji? Vaša kolegica Federica Mogherini lepo hara po Balkanu, spodbuja razne tenzije, spodbuja razna sumljiva gibanja in podobno. Kako zdaj Evropska unija, ki naj bi ščitila tako suverenost svojih članic, si dovolj, da se vmeša v suverenost članic in tretjih držav?
Sovereignty. How does the EU work? The EU works on the basis of treaties. Who signed those treaties? Sovereign countries. Who ratified those treaties? Parliaments, sovereign parliaments of sovereign countries. In those treaties are stipulated the rules countries commit to. So when countries say, when we say, this is what you agreed to do in the treaty, please abide by that, and countries say, no, no, you're interfering with my sovereignty, I would say, well, then you shouldn't have signed and ratified the treaty, because this is an obligation you take vis-a-vis other EU member states. And then the role of the Commission in all of this. Look, it's like a football game. If nobody likes the referee, but you need him to make sure that everybody in the football game abides by the rules. If one of the football players says, I'm a sovereign person, I take the ball in my hands and I drop it in the goal, others will say, hey, wait a minute, that's not how you can play this game. And in Europe, it's not much different within the European Union. Now, you said also, why are you saying this to other countries? Well, you mentioned Macedonia, for instance. Well, it is my strong and firm belief that the only way we can collectively and structurally solve the problems in the Western Balkans is by integrating these countries into the European Union. Because borders for them now are way too existential. Borders will be there, but they have to be essential, important, but not existential. That is a lesson European history taught us. So to reach that situation, we have to make sure countries like Macedonia will at some point join the European Union. But if they need to do that, there are criteria for that. And democracy and the rule of law, respect for human rights, are absolute criteria if you want to join the European Union. That is why Federica Mogherini says things about countries in the region. That is why my colleague Hahn is also so active in trying to help countries reach the same level as Slovenia has reached many years ago. You know, we are talking about security. This is not about us wanting to impose rules. This is about us wanting to prevent conflict. And you are too young. I'm sadly not too young. I remember conflict right here at your doorstep, which was very, very bloody, which I thought would destroy the European soul. But we were able to solve it. And part of the solution is integration into the wider European family, into the European Union. Let's not forget that this medicine worked well and that we need to make sure that countries that are still struggling also get this medicine so that it works well for them.
Primerjava z nogometom ni bila naključna, ker je gospod Timmermans tudi velik nogometni navdušenec, sicer navijač kluba Roda Kerkrade. Gremo naprej z verjetno nenogometnim vprašanjem. Izvolite.
Pozdravljeni. Moje ime je Jure Trbič, zaskrbljen državljan. Omenila se je varnost, zunanje meje, še terorizem čakam. Jaz bi pa nekaj drugega vprašal, bolj prihodnost morda usmerjeno. Namreč, kako gledate na zasebnost? Se vam zdi mogoče bližje ta stališče, da je to podstat svobodnega odločanja in s tem demokracije? Ali po drugi strani breme v razvoju, če si Huxleyovo imi naslov sposodim krasnega novega sveta oziroma digitalnega in tako naprej, internet stvari, spametna mesta?
That's such a fascinating question. You know, these developments are taking place at lightning speed. We've never seen this before in human history, developments going so fast. And like always, you know, the legal order always has to catch up with new developments. Now, in the past, when developments were slower, that was easier. But developments now are so fast that the legal order really has trouble catching up. And let's be honest to each other. The privacy issue is extremely complicated because we want our personal data to be protected against others snooping into it, etc. But at the same time, we as individuals, we share almost everything on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, etc. So there is a contradiction in our own behavior here. And we need to think this through. How are social media, how is the internet, how is artificial intelligence going to play a role in our lives without it limiting our liberties, without it imposing a sort of big brother society on us. And this is arguably one of the most complicated issues the world has to face today. Here we can only find solutions on a global scale. The actors in this field are global, and we need to find a way of strengthening collective European action because, you know, the Court of Justice in Luxembourg, the European Parliament, they are very, very committed to protecting your privacy. But whilst they are committed to do that, the outside world develops rapidly and our citizens participate in social media rapidly. So we need to make sure that our legislation catches up with that. And we will be pushing from the European Commission in the Council and in Parliament to make sure that legislation is made soon.
Ja. Ste zdaj kaj manj zaskrbljeni, kot ste bili prej?
Well, the gentleman is right to be concerned. But we need to act to take away his concern, and that will take some time, sadly, but we need to act as fast as we can.
Ja, pri čemer ima Evropska unija seveda tudi kar dobre izhodišča, glede na to, da je najmočnejši, recimo temu, skupni trg sploh na svetu. Še kakšno vprašanje iz Ljubljane? Če ne, ja, izvolite. Potem pa gremo Maribor spet.
Dobro večer, moje ime je Eva Bremec, sem študentka evropskih študij na Fakulteti za družbene vede. Jaz bi gospoda Timmermansa vprašala, kaj misli o alokaciji beguncev in kako se bo Evropska unija s tem soočala. Naprimer, primer, ko se Višegrajska skupina, predvsem Madžarska, ne strinja z sprejemom večjega števila beguncev. Hvala.
First of all, we need, again, you know, we were talking about global issues that will stay with us for a while. Everybody needs to get rid of the illusion that the migration problem will go away soon. The issue of migration will be with us for a generation at least, given our demographic development and then looking at Africa, the demographic development in Africa. So we need to find sustainable solutions. Until we and sustainable solutions, I mean, we need to bring development to Africa. Your Prime Minister made a plea at this in Bled today about this, and he was spot on. He was absolutely right. We need to bring development to Africa so that people see a future in Africa and not a future in crossing the Sahara and the Mediterranean to come here. Secondly, we need to have a sustainable migration policy with blue cards and other. We will need immigration temporarily, circular immigration over a long period of time, so that we give people the opportunity to apply to come and work in Europe in our embassies in their countries instead of abusing the asylum system to come to Europe, which is not just clogging the system, it is also taking away protection from people who really need protection, real refugees. And then we also need, if there is a crisis, and I hope we can avoid future crises, if there is a crisis, I think it is highly, highly unfair to then put the full burden on the country where people by accident or by geography arrive. And so we need to change the so-called Dublin system. The Dublin system says if you arrive in a country, the first country of arrival is responsible for you. Well, that turned out to be extremely unfair on Greece and extremely unfair on Italy. So what did these two countries do? They waved the refugees through with all the consequences we know now. So I would believe that if we build a new system, which we need to do urgently, we do it in a way that solidarity is built into the system. And the solidarity can take many forms, but we also need to come to an agreement with every single member state that if solidarity means you take a number of refugees, that you commit to do that. And I hope we can have a system where countries want to commit to that, because I would like to avoid a system where we force countries to do that. So I believe that is the way forward. Showing solidarity here is just as important as showing solidarity in other areas.
Gospod Timmermans, zdaj se pa spet posvetimo Mariboru, kjer sem pripričan, da imajo nova vprašanja za nas. Kratka, Jasmina, upam, da se slišimo in vidimo za naslednja vprašanja iz Maribora. Izvoli.
Slišimo in vidimo. Vidimo, da imate zaskrbljene obraze. V Ljubljani imamo jih tudi mi in celo najmlajša članica naše publike, dijakinja srednje prometne šole, je zaskrbljena in ima vprašanje.
Dober večer, sem dijakinja srednje prometne šole Maribor, Karmen Kojc. Naša šola je zelo dejavna na številnih projektih in prav tako sodelujemo v projektu Erasmus+. In nas zanima, kako bo Brexit vplival na študijske možnosti in pa na učno mobilnost prihodnje. Hvala.
What I see, you know, I've kids. My oldest is 30 now, and my youngest is 11. So I have them in quite a big age span. What I see is that for young people like you, Europe and the Europe of many nations is a given. That you, when you plan your studies, you plan also to spend some time abroad in another European nation. Erasmus is arguably one of the biggest achievements of European cooperation. When I was your age and a young student, boy, the trouble I had to go and study in France. It was almost impossible. It took me years to get this. Now it's something you do with the administration of your educational facility, and it can be arranged, and everybody's used to that. And it is providing expansion of knowledge about each other as Europeans that is really one of the most valuable things we can get together. Brexit will not change that at all. It will not change that. European students will continue to travel in Europe. And by the way, you know, the only way to get to know yourself is to look through the eyes of somebody who is different. You know, the only way, just ask a fish to define water, the fish will have trouble. Take the fish out of the water for 5 seconds and bloody hell, the fish will know what water is. And that's the same with us. If we spend some time in another culture, in another nation, we don't only learn to understand that other culture and other nation, we also learn to understand our own culture and our own nation. And this is the richness of Europe we should never lose. And you know, your generation will be put in such a huge position of responsibility for our common future. The world is changing so fast, and you need to be part of that change. And you can only be part of that change if you're good at learning quickly. When my grandparents were young, illiteracy was not being able to read and write. Illiteracy for your generation is not being able to learn all your life. And we need to make sure that young people like yourselves and my kids are able to learn the whole life so they can learn new skills and be part of the new economy. And this is what I wish for every single young European.
Ampak, če smem, gospod Timmermans, v zanosu vas je toliko zaneslo, da niste v bistvu odgovorili na vprašanje, ali bo Brexit na kakršenkoli način vplival na možnosti mladih, potem, ko bodo Britanci enkrat odšli iz Evropske unije, ko gre za Erasmus. Bo recimo možno sklepati tudi sporazume za Erasmus?
I said no. I answered that question by no. I don't see this impacting the possibilities of young people at all. And I'm sure Britain will do its utmost to be part of a community of science and education, which has done wonders for Britain in terms of its academic qualities. And I'm also sure that exchange of students, regardless of Brexit, will continue, because that is a community that is, you know, stronger than just the issue of whether a member state of a country is a member state or not.
Se upravičujem, nisem dobro poslušal. Naslednje, še eno vprašanje iz Maribora, preden se vrnemo v Ljubljano.
Stavimo naslednje vprašanje. Kdo bo naslednji? Aha, boste prvi. Izvolite.
Lepo zdrav. Evropska komisija zagotovo spodbuja rabo tehnologije, predvsem za svojo strategijo o enotnem digitalnem trgu, in mene pa zanima, kako oziroma s katerimi ukrepi mislite, da bo v prihodnosti Evropske unije možno preiti oziroma ta razkorak zadovoljiti med na eni strani uporabo, spodbujanjem rabe digitalnih tehnologij, na drugi strani zlorabo tehnologije. Namreč poznate ta izraz fake news, se pravi lažnih novic, razno spletno nadlegovanje, ne nazadnje tudi odvisnost med mladimi z uporabo tehnologije in tudi seveda med odraslimi. Kako mislite, da bo v prihodnosti, oziroma kateri ukrepi bodo na tem področju res pripomogli k nekim boljšemu stanju?
Fascinating question, because the internet is a given, and it will continue to be more and more important in our lives, in our economy, in the way we relate with other nations and other people. We've also seen that one of the first victims, if this is done without control or without a due process, one of the first victims is truth. You know, we've never seen such a surge in conspiracy theories as in the last couple of years, and social media and the internet are very much part of that. And we've never seen such violent expressions of xenophobia and hatred as on social media and the internet. We need to make sure that people who provide the services are also made co-responsible for the content of the service. You know, if you print a newspaper, you cannot say, hey, I only print the paper, I'm not responsible for what's in the paper. So we need to find ways in which we collectively solve this issue so that, you know, hate on the internet is not something that's done without consequence. Lying on the internet is not done. You know, we need to apply journalistic standards also on the internet. And then let me say one more thing in more general terms. Journalism has become a difficult job because the economic basis of journalism has been eroded over many, many years. You know, there's less advertising in newspapers, etc., etc. But in our societies, we need quality journalism, journalists who have the capacity to look into issues, to scrutinize politicians, to dig deeper, to bring things to light. In a democracy and a rule of law based democracy, you need journalism. It is the lifeline with openness and integrity. And I hope that we can find ways in making sure that journalism is a model of activity that is economically viable. And I think we all have a responsibility to make that happen.
Če imamo čas, imamo še vprašanj.
Jasmina, iz Maribora bomo šli ravno zato, da se lahko van še enkrat vrnemo. Zdaj bomo vzeli še dve vprašanji iz Ljubljane, potem pa se bomo še enkrat vrnili v Maribor. Gremo naslednje vprašanje. Izvolite.
Dobro večer, Mišel Obenga iz Ljubljane, direktor Francoskega inštituta za francoski jezik AEO. Jaz bi se vrnil malo na zgodovino Evropske unije, ker zgodba je zelo zanimiva in je lahko vzor Evropi, ampak tudi celotnemu svetu. Zgodovina, na kratko povzeto, gre za skupnost oziroma skupina držav, ki so se skozi zgodovino med seboj vojskovali, ker pač so mislili, da v življenje sila naj bi bila tisto, ki pač prinese človeka naprej. Človek rabi pač veliko časa, da razume, da včasih ni prava rešitev. In so se potem zmenili, da edina dragocena stvar je mir. In ta mir zahteva, da bivši sovražniki postanejo prijatelji. In ta zgodba je enkratna zgodba in je lahko vzor celotnemu svetu. In pričakujem, da v tem zvezi Evropa igra ne samo znotraj Slovenije, ampak zunaj neko pomembno vlogo. Obstaja in od samega začetka je postopoma, torej najprej ekonomsko, in imamo občutek, da dolgo nekako stoji, ker naslednja etapa naj bi bila politična. In tu imamo občutek, da stvari dolgo že stoji. Zato vas vprašam, ampak ne me govorite kot bivši minister za zunanje zadeve, ampak kot državljan te Evrope. Dve šoli obstajata. Kateri šoli pripadate vi? Šola, ki zagovarja federacija ali pa skupnost suverenih držav? Imam dve vprašanje, bom raje najprej to vprašanje in pričakoval, da mi boste na to odgovorili, in če bom imel besedo, bom še pomembno vprašanje.
You start with a small one. No, this is a fundamental question. And I salute you for phrasing it in such beautiful terms, the history of the European integration. You know, in the last 15 years or 20 years, the idea sort of came about that the economic integration in the internal market were a goal per se. That, you know, and some member states do believe that. Some member states believe that EU is just about a common market and structural funds, and that's it. But the whole idea behind the EU started when this rhythm of a bloody war between European nations, a rhythm of about every 30 years. You know, every 30 years, one nation felt stronger than the other and thought, I can dominate, poof, let's start a war. This rhythm led in the 20th century to two suicidal wars. Europe killed itself almost completely in two wars. And then people started saying, is there another way of trying to improve the living conditions of my citizens? And the answer is yes, by creating a community of values where we depend on each other. It was a conscious choice to create a situation where you depend on your neighbor. Now, in times of crisis, that doesn't always feel comfortable, and that's what we've seen in the last couple of years. Reactions against Europe is sometimes also, I don't want to depend on my neighbor because I don't trust him. But depending on your neighbor has led to the end of the Franco-German confrontation, which lasted for centuries. And if Europe means anything, we need to go back to the roots of why we are doing this. We have neglected talking about our values. We have neglected talking about why. We confront people all the time with how, statistics, PowerPoint presentations, economic growth, etc. But we should, especially with the younger generation, rekindle the feeling why. And if we can find the feeling why, which is based on our values, how we want to live together, we will also find the strength and courage to bring that to the rest of the world, because it is a beautiful story. I would like people in Africa to live like we live, also in terms of the relationship with other nations. I would like people in Asia to also have the individual rights we have built for ourselves in Europe. It's a beautiful story, but you have to believe it yourself before you can tell it to somebody else.
Dobro, gremo še z enim vprašanjem v Ljubljani, potem pa gremo nazaj še za zadnje vprašanje v Mariboru. Izvolite.
Lepo pozdravljeni, Uroš Brezovšek, Zveza prijateljev mladine Slovenije. Danes se tukaj pogovarjamo. Jaz imam pa eno vprašanje in sicer gre za participacijo otrok in mladih tudi pri vprašanjih, ki se tičejo njih. Ali ima Evropska komisija pogled na to oziroma kako slišati mlade in otroke, zato ker na papirju je vse lepo urejeno, tudi pri nas, ampak na otroških parlamentih slišimo, da so mladi in otroci vse premalo slišani, včasih imajo pa zelo dobre ideje.
Okay. True. If you look at the Eurobarometer analysis, you see that people say in most member states, we don't feel heard. And then you ask, but are you heard by your national government? Well, even less. So we have a problem at all levels of governance. And I maintain that the way we've organized politics or institutions is still a bit part of a paternalistic society which no longer exists. There is a strong wish for citizens to be more directly involved in decision-making at all levels. And the ones who get this best until now are the people at the municipal level, because the contact is closer. And we should learn from each other. We should learn from cities and towns of how they engage with their citizens. Perhaps sometimes we have something to say about that as well. We should also educate our children in being citizens. You know, sometimes I don't know about Slovenia, but in many member states, this is something that has sort of disappeared from the curriculum. But citizens means that comes with a lot of rights, but also with some duties vis-à-vis each other. The fundamental problem is we have started as politicians to treat people like customers, whereas we should treat people like citizens, because a customer wants something for you and they will pay for it and you will give it, or you won't and they will go somewhere else. But they don't feel responsibility for the product. Well, citizens feel responsibility for each other and for the collective organization of our society. And we need to find modern, new ways of engaging with our citizens through the modernizing and improving, for instance, the European Citizens Initiative, through looking at a way we organize our democracy, through looking at ways we organize the election of the European Parliament, but also talking to our member states, because the problem at the level of member states isn't smaller than the problem we have at the European level.
Toliko v Ljubljani, zdaj pa k zadnjemu vprašanju, toliko časa še imamo v Mariboru. Maribor, izvolite.
Če pravite, da imamo samo še eno vprašanje na razpolago, iščem zadnjega kandidata.
Lepo pozdravljeni. Darko Krajn, Slovenska filantropija. Kot socialni delavec v nevladni organizaciji sem zelo razočaran z preveč administracije, birokracije. Zanima me, kaj boste naredili na področju zmanjševanja birokratskih ovir, pa predvsem neke nepotrebne administracije pri poročanju, dokazovanju dela, ki ga opravljamo v nevladnem sektorju, pa tudi v ostalih, ki se prijavljam na evropske razpise, ker mislim, da je vložek, ki ga daje razpis, zelo nesorazmeren s tem, kar potem lahko naredimo za ljudi, ki pomoč potrebujejo.
True, true. We have become so obsessed with control and checking because we are so afraid that taxpayers' money is not spent in the right way that we put a huge burden on people in terms of justification, reporting, etc., etc. And I get too many reports. And this is not just Slovenia, in all member states. Especially NGOs saying, well, we don't even bother anymore asking for European support. It's just too complicated. So we need to fix that. We need to fix that in a way that we can help NGOs, especially smaller NGOs, to participate in this possibility of getting support from the European Union. Now, how do we do that? Simplifying rules is one thing. Helping NGOs with online tools and other tools to fill in requirements. Collectively organizing this, because you have big NGOs and small NGOs, and I would urge bigger NGOs to lend their expertise also to smaller NGOs to help them, because the big NGOs are really know how to get into Brussels and know how to get everywhere. And if you give me some concrete example, you can send it through the Commission representation here in Ljubljana. I will give you a personal answer on your personal request as far as your NGO is concerned, because I'm very much interested in this and I want to fix this problem. We've already reduced EU regulation in many areas, but we are met with very strict requirements in terms of the way we spend EU taxpayers' money, which is absolutely right and correct, but we also have to make sure we make your lives easier so you use the opportunities that we have. Let me know, send me an email and I will look into it and I will try and help you fix the problem.
Jaz upam, da je publika v Mariboru zadovoljna z odgovori. Sicer, če vam v Ljubljani zmanjka kakšno vprašanje, jih mi imamo še kar nekaj. V nasprotnem primeru pa lepo zdrav v Ljubljano. Gospodu Timmermansu pa povabilo v drugo največje slovensko mesto, prvo nogometno.
Najlepša hvala, Jasmina, in lepo zdrav v Maribor. Glede na kimanje gospoda Kranjca...
I'll come to you and I'll come and watch a football game.
Ja, glede na kimanje gospoda Kranjca je bil zadnji odgovor v Maribor. Ker v redu imamo še možnost za eno vprašanje v Ljubljani, pa dajmo ženskam besedo, ki imajo prvo in zadnjo, tudi v Sloveniji. Izvolite.
Hvala lepa. Urša Orehak, bom rekla državljan. Ali menite, da bi bilo vključevanje tretjega sektorja v nadzorne mehanizme institucij učinkovit oziroma smiseln boj v smislu padca zaupanja v javne institucije? Tukaj imamo predvsem v mislih nevladne organizacije, potem sindikate in pa zadruge.
Well, I do. In our society, politicians can no longer, they try, I know, they can no longer go to citizens and say, trust me. Give me your vote and I'll see you again in 4 years' time and meanwhile I will take care of things. In modern societies that doesn't work anymore. There are issues all the time where you want to interact with government or governance or at all levels. We are no longer a trust me society, we are a show me society. Citizens say on a daily basis, you politician, show me that you deserve my support. Show me that you can deliver on what I need. But the problem for many politicians is, tell me what you need. If there is no coordination, if there is no cooperation in NGOs, individual voices are so manifold that when they all speak together, nobody hears anything. So in that sense, getting organized in NGOs, in trade unions, in other organizations, civil organizations, has a huge impact on decision makers. Look at some of our member states. If young people or other people go into the streets, look at the women's movement in Poland. It stopped legislation in its tracks simply by going into the streets. Look at what happened in Bucharest. Exactly the same thing. The parliament and government were stopped in their tracks because people went into the streets and protested. And this is vibrant society. And you know the interesting thing is, all these protesters, you know what sort of flag they were waving? Yeah, the blue flag with yellow stars. So they expect us in Europe to be on their side, to help them formulate their demands and then interact with national government, European government. This is arguably one of the biggest responsibilities we collectively have, to translate what our citizens want in policy without condescending, without being paternalistic, but in an engaging way that creates responsibility on both sides.
Najlepša hvala, gospod Timmermans. Vidim, da imate še ogromno energije, ampak zdaj vas vabim spet na izhodiščno točko, kajti naš čas se počasi izteka, kar nekaj vprašanj je bržkone ostalo neodgovorjenih. Zanimivo je bilo, da nismo nič slišali recimo vprašanj v zvezi z scenarijem za prihodnost Evropske unije, to je teh 5+, nič nismo slišali recimo o morebitni skupni evropski varnostni politiki in recimo skupni evropski vojski. Žal nič vprašanj v zvezi z skrbjo Evropske unije za starostnike, ki predstavljajo čedalje večji del prebivalstva. So vas kakšno vprašanje presenetila? So ta vprašanja podobna tistim, ki ste jih že prejeli na podobnih dialogih kje drugje?
Well, the interesting thing of the citizens' dialogue, I've done now, I think 26, 27, I don't know exactly, more or less, across the European Union. The interesting thing is our union is so diverse. There are many different questions, but there's always the same theme comes back in different forms. And that is, how am I part of this? How does this affect me? How do you make sure that this also works for us? And this is, if I hear the questions tonight, people are very much engaged in what does it mean for us as a nation, but also for me individually. And this takes different forms in different countries. You know, if you're in the Baltic states, Russia is the subject that comes up all the time. If you're in the Netherlands, it's Brexit, because Dutch people are very much worried about that. In Ireland, Brexit, obviously. And here, it is clear that, of course, the relationship with your neighbor, Croatia, is very important, and that's a given. But what it teaches me everywhere is that people relate their national issues and bilateral issues to Europe. And that is a European reality of today. We are in this together. You know, we had an election in the Netherlands early this year in March. The whole of Europe was watching an election in the Netherlands. That never happened before.
Mimogrede, a vlado ste že sestavili?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. By the end of this month, hopefully. But what I'm trying to say is this: why are people watching elections in other countries? Because they know it affects them as well. Why are people now watching a debate which wasn't the most exciting I've ever seen last night between the two contenders in Germany? Because they know the election in Germany has an influence on the EU as a whole. Same for France, same for other countries. So we are, in our destiny, we are linked. And sometimes in crisis, when we feel left alone, this is a scary feeling. And I get this everywhere in Europe. But if we feel strong and confident, this is a very strong feeling to be part of a strong Europe of 500 million people. Let me say one thing also I find in common with the Netherlands and Slovenia. It didn't come up so much tonight, but it came up earlier today. You know, this idea that we're small so we don't count. That's been, you know, in my political life, always talking about Europe. We're small so we don't count. We count because we have the law. We count because we have treaties. We count because we can demand even the strongest state in Europe to abide by the law. That is why the rule of law is so important. That is why these issues should be top on our European list. That is why I count on Slovenia to support the implementation of the rule of law throughout our work now and in the future.
Najlepša hvala, gospod podpredsednik. V vašem delu vas seveda v korist slovenskih in seveda tudi evropskih državljank in državljanov želim veliko sreče. Ogromno vprašanje je še ostalo neodgovorjenih, ampak prepričani smo, da bo tudi ta pogovor zagnal seveda dodatne sile tudi med Slovenkami in Slovenci za to, da bodo sodelovali pri razpravah o prihodnosti Evropske unije, ker je to tudi naša prihodnost. Hvala za vašo energijo na odgovore in veliko uspeha. In hvala seveda tudi vam, spoštovane gledalke in gledalci, ne le v studiu tu v Ljubljani in v Mariboru, pač pa seveda tudi vsem, ki ste to spremljali prek televizije, radia in pa spleta. Hvala lepa in srečno.